Today, governments, regulators, institutions want you to sign up with them and they want to know your details, who you are, what's your home address, show us your passport, everything. I started in a way that I was setting up multiple exchanges for myself. So I had Kraken, I had Bitstamp and whatever. And only after some time, I realized all the governments know, all the exchanges, and later on governments can know how much I bought, when I bought the Bitcoin. The KYC, know your customer Bitcoin on these exchanges, loses its property of privacy. So with that, it's hard to protect your financial privacy. We don't know what the future holds. Why I think Bitcoin will get to 1 million. It's just a matter of time because governments will still keep printing money and will be inflating their currency. I'm always like, there's a very high likeliness that Bitcoin will go up there. So I'm always trying to support it and figuring out different values for a person. So one thing definitely is protection of their wealth. So even if Bitcoin would kind of be stable, it's still a protection because the fiat currency is going down.
John, welcome. For the people who don't know you as the legendary Bitcoin safe miner guy, can you do a short introduction of yourself?
Yes, so I'm Dusan from Slovakia. I'm almost a decade in Bitcoin, focusing also on education. So my background is in teaching. I used to teach mathematics, physics, and English. When I entered Bitcoin, I was like, that's what I want to continue doing, educating Bitcoin. And so I was doing that for a couple of years, became like full-time Bitcoin educator. And then we decided to scale it up. So we started doing Bitcoin mining in Slovakia to help us sustain the education mission. And today we are doing Bitcoin Educator academies in multiple countries across the world, sustaining it with Bitcoin mining, with OTC services. So yeah, scaling education, and we want to bring 100 million people into the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And we do it through our company, METH. So we will probably discuss that as well.
100%. So what we will go over is first the way how you started Bitcoin mining, because I heard it quickly during your workshop that it was literally energy from farts to a Bitcoin mine.
We were a proper shitcoiners.
Yeah, proper shitcoiners. To how that is built to sustain the education side of the company and the impact you're striving to make there. Because most of the people, like I'm a recent Bitcoiner myself. I turned orange since BTC Prague by Svetsky. So
nice.
recently, but so is
welcome
everyone who is watching. They're like at beginner level. So I think it's really interesting. Okay, what are the basics of Bitcoin mining? I recorded a podcast yesterday with Quinton, so check that one out as well from My First Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, he's great.
So there we dove a bit into the essence of Bitcoin and why fiat is shit and everything. But mining is like a bit more of the underneath layer of Bitcoin.
It is. It's, I think, one of the most, if not the most complex part of Bitcoin to really understand and grasp, and why it's called mining and why it really matters. So yeah, we can talk about it definitely.
Cool.
So yeah, the journey started, it was kind of a funny way because I was doing these free consultations for people about Bitcoin. It was a 30-minute consultation. And one day, 5 years ago, a guy appeared there. And I was like, hey, my name is Dusan, my name is Gabriel. So we were chatting, it was super funny. And like 2 minutes before the end of consultation, he was like, Dusan, so mining, you need electricity for that. I'm like, yeah. And the cheap electricity, right? I'm like, yes. And he said, you know, because my mother-in-law, she owns a little power plant, and maybe we can ask her if we can start doing mining there. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Somebody who owns a power plant, and why not? So we came to his mother-in-law. She was like super enthusiastic. She was like very technical. Like, yes, guys, I want you to do it here. And like a lot of people asked me about it, but fuck them. I will give the opportunity to you guys. I'm like, wow. So I did a basic calculation at the time. I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. So at the time, I already had a couple of clients, full long-term clients. And I told them, hey guys, you know, we plan to have one container, buy a couple of machines. And if you want, you can buy machines. We'll host it with you, with us. And in like 2-3 weeks, we filled up the whole container. It was at the time like about almost $2 million of investment. I'm like, oh my God, like now it's getting serious. Like people really want to do it with us. I'm like, okay, so we need to step up the game. So we set up a new container, filled it up as well. So why I said that we were proper shitcoiners is because we were literally turning cow shit into Bitcoin. So the power plant was a biogas power plant, small one, 0.5 megawatts. And the main feedstock was a cow shit, right? So it was a lot of chemistry around it. We had a great team of people running the power plant, and we were using all the electricity the power plant produced for us, for Bitcoin mining. So it was kind of a closed loop. And that's where we learned how to do the mining, how to do the networking around it, how to make sure that everything runs properly. We ran into infinite amount of problems, from snow hitting our fans or hitting the
cooling systems.
yeah, the cooling system, or basically the filters. Then the snow, froze, and suddenly the machines were going offline. We're like, what's going on? So we realized, okay, there's no airflow, so we need to fix that. So there was like an infinite amount of things we needed to solve over time. But that was one of the best lessons we really learned. So when war came in 2022, Slovakia is next to Ukraine, so this really influenced us. And a lot of people from Ukraine came, and the government said to the power plant, like, hey, any day we can force you to put all the electricity into the grid instead of, your own consumption, which meant us. So they told us, hey guys, we can close down any day. Like, shit, so we cannot do it for our clients. So we decided to move to Czech Republic for a while. But after that, when the price of electricity went up in Europe and Bitcoin crashed, we were like, okay, we need to solve it differently. So we moved everything to Paraguay at the time. I was becoming a resident of Paraguay, using their jurisdiction to save on taxes and be more free. And I realized that Paraguay is the biggest electricity exporter in the world. So I'm like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. The price was cheap. There was abundant amount of electricity. That's why we decided to move everything there. So then the journey continued. Right now we are in Ethiopia. We are looking to different countries. So yeah, I mean, the mining really took me all around the world. It was super cool.
That's really sick, because in the essence, this is like Digital Nomad podcast. So it's cool how that brought you all over the world. But if we rewind back a bit, you said you already had a couple of clients. Just to bring a noob completely in, what type of clients? How did that work? I know that Quinton, he talked about Bitcoin consulting, and at the time, like, what can you imagine? How does that work? If you had a couple of long-term clients, full-time in Bitcoin, how did it go?
Yes, so that's something I want to inspire people to strive for. So if they like education and they're like, hey, can I do this full time? Can I become a sustainable full-time educator? I want to inspire them, like, yes, it's possible. And this was my journey, and maybe you can replicate it. So what I did is I started to do, first of all, free content online. Like I've written an ebook, Top 10 Bitcoin Fuck Ups and How to Avoid Them. So that was out there. People can read it. They can, learn how to do backups, basic things for newbies. Then I started to do the same thing in webinars. So I was running a monthly, even every 2 weeks, I was running a webinar discussing about top 10 Bitcoin fuck ups, how to avoid them. I paid for online Facebook ads. So I used to have 200, 300 people there. So I ran the webinar. In the end, I told them, hey guys, if you like my way of teaching and if you get value from it and you want to continue, I'm offering a 4-hour Bitcoin masterclass. And that consisted of setting up a hot wallet, like on a mobile phone, doing some transactions, setting up Trezor as a hardware wallet, explaining how to buy Bitcoin safely, securely, with privacy-oriented approach, non-KYC, explaining why even Bitcoin matters, answering questions, handling objections, everything around it. So roughly it was 4 hours. We did on 2 sittings. And people start to buy that. So I was charging at the time about 350 euros for that. And I was surprised positively that there was a lot of demand on that. So I ended up teaching 6 to 8 hours every day. So clients were piling up, and I was like, oh my God, like it became really overwhelming over time. So then I decided, okay, I don't want to be a bottleneck, because if something happens to me, or if I'm sick, I can't work or whatever, my income just dries up. So I was like, okay, I want to scale the education, and I want to make myself redundant in some way so I can help others do the same thing. And we can build a platform, or we can build an initiative for education, right? So that's where we started METH as our current company. So yeah, most of my clients, majority of what they needed and wanted was helping them with self-custody setups, like really hardware wallets, explaining Shamir's passphrases, how it works, how to avoid, some scams, how to not make a mistake. So in the end, I realized a value of an educator is saving money and saving time. Instead of a person going out to the wild online and researching things for 50 hours and trying things, failing, losing money, it takes me 4 hours to really understand where they are, where they want to go, and tell them, okay, from this plateau of solutions that I know and understand and who they are for, this one and this one and this one is right for you at this moment because you want to achieve that. So that's where I managed to save their time into 3-4 hours, and they immediately know what to do and how to progress. And also if they want to secure 10, 20, 30,000 euros of Bitcoin over time, paying 100 euros to 300, so that they have a good setup, it's definitely worth it, right? So that was kind of my journey, how I became sustainable full-time educator. And I would love to inspire people to do it. So become sustainable educators,
And
guys.
there were a couple of really interesting touch points. First of all, there were a couple of jargon words like KYC, non-KYC,
Yes.
hard wallet, soft wallet, like non-custodial. What's all of that? And what's really interesting is the way you did it. You literally, my background is sales and marketing, and from sales and marketing, I went nomadic, and now Bitcoin as well.
Nice.
You literally described an entire webinar funnel, and you described the bottle that a lot of coaches, bottleneck, a lot of coaches, consultants experience, like they're the constraint of their business. So maybe first it's good to dive into the jargon, like what's the Bitcoin jargon that most people probably don't understand. And then I'm really curious, like where did the entrepreneurial mindset came from? Because you were an educator before, like a mathematics teacher.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense if you compare that to Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin and the math behind it, especially from your technical side. But also, where did the entrepreneurial side come from with the whole funnel setup? Because you perfectly described a webinar funnel.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, I'll touch it as well. So let's clear out the jargon. So we talked about, let's say, custodial and non-custodial wallets. So the whole custody concept means that if you give up your control of your funds to somebody else, that's meaning like the person is a custodian. They hold your funds, they hold your keys. That's what we have in Bitcoin. Your keys, your Bitcoin, not your Bitcoin. So teaching people to own the keys from their wallets so that they can own their wealth is super important. So custodial wallets are wallets which basically you give up the keys, the company behind it owns the keys, or the exchange owns the keys. So if you keep your money on exchange, and somebody hacks them, your money is gone. Self-custody or non-custodial approach means you hold the keys, and only if you mess up something and you don't do a proper backup, or you write it down in your notes on phone and somebody sees that, your money can be gone, right? So definitely self-custody or non-custodial approach means more control. The second one we used was cold wallet and hot wallet, right? And that describes how secure are the keys. So if we have a hot wallet, that means our keys from our addresses, that's the thing that allows you to send Bitcoin, is stored on a device that can be connected or is connected to the internet. So hackers might hack your device like a phone and steal your keys out and steal your Bitcoin. Cold wallets are wallets like hardware wallets, even paper wallets in the past, where on paper you have a public key, which is the address where you send money, or a private key, which is key to send Bitcoin. And paper cannot be hacked from the internet, right? Paper is not connected to Wi-Fi, right? So if you do it properly, this is a cold wallet or cold storage setup, nobody can hack. Today, from practical reasons, we use hardware wallets like Trezor, Bitbox, Ledger, Coldcard, and they allow you to store keys on a device that cannot be accessed through the internet. So basically, hacker cannot hack in to the device. They cannot send some malware, send some virus inside. So you're super well protected compared to the hot wallets, right? Is it understandable this way?
Yeah.
Good. And so we had, and the KYC, right? KYC stands for Know Your Customer, right? So today, governments, regulators, institutions want you to sign up with them, and they want to know your details, who you are, what's your home address, show us your passport, everything. And this is not very advised. I started in a way that I was setting up multiple exchanges for myself, and I wanted to buy Bitcoin as cheap as possible with the lowest fee. So I had Kraken, I had Bitstamp, and whatever. And only after some time, I realized, wow, but all the governments know, all the exchanges, and later on governments can know how much I bought, when I bought the Bitcoin. They can call me, be like, hey, okay, we saw that you bought some Bitcoin. Where is it? Did you tax it properly? So suddenly Bitcoin, the KYC, know your customer Bitcoin on these exchanges, loses its property of privacy. So with that, it's hard to protect your financial privacy. on the other hand of the spectrum, you can buy Bitcoin without KYC, without know your customer data. So imagine like we sit together and you come to me, hey, Dusan, I want to buy $20 of Bitcoin. Yeah, no problem. Give me $20. I send you Bitcoin directly. Nobody knows about it, just us. It's a peer-to-peer, non-KYC way to buy Bitcoin. Or you can earn your Bitcoin. You can work and you get paid by your company or by your friend. So you don't change dollars for Bitcoin, you change your time and energy for Bitcoin. Again, non-KYC, just peer-to-peer. And in this way, you can keep stacking and building your wealth without the institution knowing how much you have. Because you never know when this can change, when policy in your country can change and Bitcoin might be seen as the bad thing, right? Which happened in the past in other countries. I mean, a very good example, a reminder of this is what happened in 1933 in the US with gold. I don't know if you heard about that.
It's broke loose from the gold standard, right? Or-
No. Actually, there was it's called Executive Order 6102. And basically what happened is the president, I think it was Roosevelt at the time, he said, we are forcing people, you have 2 weeks, I think it was 2 weeks, to return every gold to the government, basically sell it out for a very cheap price. If you didn't do that, you could only keep some jewelry, some small things, coins, but the regular bars, everything had to be sold to the government. If you didn't do it, you are facing $10,000 of fine, which at the time was crazy amount of money. Even today it is, or 10 years in prison. So a huge thing. So people who had gold with KYC, who governments and institutions knew that, oh, in our vaults in the bank, you have 3 kilos of gold. They couldn't just escape because there was their name attached to it. If somebody bought gold at the time and had it at home in their pockets, they didn't need to return it because nobody knew they had them, right? So this is kind of a nice reminder that maybe one day in some countries this can happen with Bitcoin. Imagine Bitcoins on exchanges. Someday the government comes, okay, there are $3 billion of Bitcoin on this exchange. No worries, people. You know, we will give you whatever you have $10,000 of Bitcoin. We give you $10,000, but this Bitcoin is, take it. We're going to custody it for you. And that's very dangerous. That's why I'm trying to tell people, hey, don't leave Bitcoin on exchanges because first of all, if they get hacked, your Bitcoin is gone. But one day your Bitcoin can be taken and redeemed for something worthless because governments realize, oh my God, Bitcoin is a really powerful tool to have. We need to own it to protect ourselves as governments. And this way we should really think about non-KYC approaches and self-custody, having Bitcoin within our control. So we clear the terms a little bit.
Yeah, I think that helps a lot for a lot of people, and also just to know that you own your own Bitcoin, you own your own gold, just to make it in understandable terms, for your own sovereignty, for your own safety. So, like, I have a lot of entrepreneurial friends as well. I'm not gonna drop names or anything, but I know some of them told me that they just have like stacked gold bars somewhere, like they don't know about Bitcoin or how it all works. So for them, it's like stacked gold bars because that's what they believe in.
It's a good
but it's
middle way to
but
do
it's non-KYC.
That's
Like
good.
they got no one knows they own it, and
That's
they
good.
travel the world. And then sometimes they told me that they just travel with like a solid golden bar with them.
I don't know how this works, honestly, with airports.
I have no clue how they do it. I didn't ask any questions.
It's
I'm
so
like,
clunky.
okay,
I mean, that's why we need Bitcoin, right?
but
That's crazy.
I thought it was quite funny, and
Yeah.
also to like make the example even more visual for some people. And also, gold is quite heavy.
Oh yeah,
Gold is quite heavy.
it's very
A
dense.
treasure wallet is not that heavy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, that's why like gold was great money for 5,000 years, but today in society that we live in, which is super globalized, international, people are nomading. There's no way that gold will ever become a standard of money. I mean, it's a great metal, but even a few days and weeks ago, there was some news that in a lab they turned mercury into gold. So they figure out a way how to kind of create gold, which and it's still super expensive so far, but if the cost of that goes down, gold is done. I mean, the scarcity element of it is just out, right? So we need something that's scarce, digital, that you can transfer anywhere, and that's Bitcoin, that you can own directly without a middleman. So Bitcoin is solving all these problems. So it's a natural evolution of money. And that's how we should see it. Not again like investment and speculative thing, but like a natural progression towards 21st, 22nd, 23rd century of money where we have to have digital money. Like imagine we travel in space, we travel across, huge distances, and we would be carrying papers or carrying gold. I mean, that's so stupid.
Yeah, but even now, like before I was in Bali, I was in Koh Phangan in Thailand, and here you have 10,000 or 100,000 rupiah, and in Thailand you have
Buts.
the bahts.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you need to change. And I come from a euro country. Euro is still, compared to fiat currencies, a strong one.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you have €1 is 16,000 baht, and it's a headache.
Yeah.
It's just a headache, and you need to exchange all those papers. And in Thailand, you still cannot pay by card everywhere. Like it's just a headache, and
it is. And this would never survive for long term in free market. If you think about it, all these currencies are forced up from top down by the governments in a way that you have to pay taxes in them. So imagine if all the governments suddenly would say, okay, you can pay us in anything you want. It can be gold, it can be this and that. Over certain years, the currencies would collapse, majority of them, because they would not be forced to be used. So the same in Europe, right? I'm from Slovakia, and we cannot pay taxes in anything else than euros. So basically the government is creating artificial demand for euros because you have to pay in them the taxes. If there would be no legal tender on free market, the currencies would converge to the best one. That's what happened before we had fiat with gold. Like everything, the money converged from barter through commodity money, through metals, all the way to gold, which has the best properties as money. And people realize it over time, over interactions. Like, oh, with gold, I can protect my wealth much better than if I store it in potatoes or cows, right? So everything will converge over time into one currency, one language of value. Because imagine this, for lengths and weights, we have basically one or two standards of language, right? We have kilograms and we have pounds, let's say. Even converting these two is sometimes really headache, right? But for humanity to optimally work, if we have one language, it's so much easier, right? The same with length, right? Imagine if every country had their own standard of length. That would be so stupid. And I was speaking with Pablo, our educator, great guy from Bull Bitcoin. We're doing the Bitcoin Educators Academy here. So he told me a mind-blowing thing that I didn't know, that in England, many centuries ago, they were literally, the foot was measured by the king's length of his feet, of his foot. So what happened at one point of time, the king died and his young son became king, which is his foot was like super short. But they created a new measurement, like the foot suddenly was so much shorter. So the table that previously was, 9 feet, suddenly was 15 feet, right? And if a carpenter was charging by foot of length for some work, suddenly everything needs to be repriced. So stupid. Every new king, the length changes. I mean, that's so inefficient. But that's what we live in today in terms of value. So imagine a meter, which is a fixed length today. And imagine if that meter would be from rubber or from bubblegum and it would be changing every year. That's what's happening with currencies, right? The standard of value is shrinking, it's expanding. Every year it's different, so we cannot measure it. If that would be the same in construction, our buildings would not, stand up, or the bridges would collapse because, people wouldn't understand what meter at what point of time you mean. It would be crazy. But suddenly, somehow, we accept this in value, in terms of value. So we don't have a good measuring stick. And with Bitcoin being 21 million, even though the rest is still being mined, it's like 19.5, let's say. But we know the measuring stick will be 21 million. So if we take that as a stick that will not change and shrink, suddenly we can measure value much better. So I think that's why I call it natural progression. We have to have something like that.
And I think over time we will go there. And like to emphasize on that, it's still really early. If you talk to every Bitcoiner, everyone who is in the community, and it's still really early. But the adoption from what it was 1 year ago or 2 years ago, and the technology that's built right now since 1 or 2 years ago, it's already massive. So I'm only more optimistic on, okay, how cool is everything within 5 years? How cool? And that brings, it's a good bridge to what you were doing right now as well, with your sustainable mining, like sustainable companies, sustainability becomes more and more important. And mining, like the people are most biased on it because it takes a lot of energy and it's not sustainable and that whole jargon. So I think it's good to dive into that after that. But first, I'm still interested in your entrepreneurial side.
Oh,
Like
yes.
how did that came up?
Yeah. So my first entrepreneurial experience was when I was about 16-year old, and I was ordering stuff from China to Slovakia and selling it all across the bazaars and everywhere. And it keeps reminding me of also one thing, that's the kind of the deflation we live in technological world. So at the time when I was 16, the regular, let's say, size of a USB stick, like a flash drive, was about 8 gigabytes, 8 to 16, right? Maximum. And at the time, I managed to buy 32 and 64 gigabytes flash drives, and they cost about 50, 60, 70 euros at the time, like super expensive, right? And it keeps reminding me, like today, 64 gigs is like nothing, right? Like you would pay $1 for that. So I was selling that. I was selling headphones. I was selling, stuff online, and that was kind of my first entrepreneurial experience. Later on, when I was 20, I set up my first company. It was a construction company. We were building outdoor workout parks, kids' playgrounds, and basically outdoor sports centers, right? So there's a story why it happened, but I will not go into it. So we loved it. We set up the company, and since 2014 till 2017, I was running it. I was managing the company. And in 2017, I was already on the verge of deciding, okay, will I continue with the company and continue building that, or will I go more into Bitcoin? And the more I thought about it, people think it was a hard decision for me because the company was very close to my heart. But in the end, it wasn't a hard decision because the values that I found in Bitcoin and spreading the Bitcoin knowledge so that I can fulfill my educator's passion was so strong that I was like, it was an easy decision for me. So I let the company go to my co-founders. The company still exists. It's doing pretty well. We already built like 700 workout parks across Europe. So it's doing good. But that's where, over the time, I was building my entrepreneurial skills. I was studying management and economics as well. So I was applying things in the company. So, and in between that, I was doing the teaching. I was, teaching the math, physics. I was more tutoring kids, helping students, stuff like that. So that was kind of a merge of education and entrepreneurial journey. So when I get into Bitcoin, I knew that I want to teach and I want to build something that's more sustainable as a company that can help other educators, get on the journey and sustain them. This is what I wanted.
Sick. And then how did you came to the conclusion, okay, now I need to build a funnel? Did that came from the construction side as well? Like from the construction company? Okay, I need to have leads. Leads need to come from somewhere. Let's have a freebie. Let's do this. Because that's for some starters in the info space, that's already quite advanced. So where did that came from? How did you came up with that? Is it just logical thinking? Is it
Looking backwards, I think I was studying a lot of like marketing and like sales funnels and click funnels, maybe like Russell Brunson. So somehow I got into these guys and I understood, okay, I'm suddenly becoming an infopreneur, like really selling content, selling my time, and how to do it in the best way. I need to learn from the best. So I ended up learning from these guys and implementing it into my own thing, right?
And then you did like bought courses or read books or
Yeah, read books. I remember very good ones was from Daniel
Priestley.
Yes, the key person of an influence,
Yeah.
and this was entrepreneurial something. Yes. So a lot of content I use from him that helped me quite a lot. Then from the click funnels, understanding how the funnel works.
Russell Brunson has a really good book about that, right?
Yes.
I can say it's a really good book, but I haven't read it.
I mean, one that I read was Expert Secrets. I think that's one from him, and the other is something with funnels. It was 2017, 18, 19 when I read it, something like that.
Yeah, Expert Secrets got recommended to me a couple of times.
Yes, very good one, because if you really want to sell your knowledge, and make it sustainable, that's definitely a resource to go to. So that helped me quite a lot, like how to build a webinar, how to build a sales offer. But I had very hard time with sales of myself, right? I was very unsecure of, asking money for my knowledge, for my time, because when I was doing math, physics, it was kind of required, and the parents were paying to me, please come and help our kid to, pass the exams. So it was kind of easy. I was in a huge demand. But with Bitcoin, I was like, damn, like there's a lot of content online for free. I was learning everything online for free almost, right? And how can I charge somebody for what I learned for free, right? So I had like a very big mental obstacle or mental blockade to really ask for money. So I needed to work on my own psychology and my vulnerabilities and fears and what blocked me to be okay with like, okay, I'm giving value, so there should be a value for value. If I want to make it sustainable, somebody has to pay me for it, because otherwise I would be doing some Fiat job, and maybe in the evenings I would spend 1 or 2 hours teaching somebody. But what happened, and it was surprising to me, that the more I dive deep, the more I was increasing slowly the price from $20 per hour all the way to 150 and more. What happened is that the more I charged, the more people wanted to get my service, because I could spend more time just diving deep into Bitcoin, reading everything, understanding solutions, practicing, figuring out what works, what doesn't. And suddenly people saw like, oh yeah, Dusan is doing it kind of 24/7. So I would rather pay him than maybe go for free to somebody who's just doing it in the evenings, right? So that even started to funnel more value into my own time or myself, so I can focus more on Bitcoin. So it was kind of this spiral that helped me to be like really full time. So I'm trying to inspire educators and people like not to be afraid to charge for something. Of course, offering a lot of value for free, definitely that has to be there, to make sure that people know what's your style, if you really can offer value, not being afraid to give out things for free that are valuable. But then there should be something that will be paid, that you can really focus on, getting better at what you're doing. Otherwise, you cannot be sustainable.
And to make two practical examples for that, like my background is sales. So I had over 5,000 sales conversations, close over
Nice.
550 deals. Like
What were you selling? What
I sold marketing software
Okay.
and dog food on markets.
Oh my God.
Like literally like standing on a market and like 200 times a day. Do you have a dog? Do you? Yes, you have a dog? What kind of dog do you have? And then like be way too excited about that dog. It's a lot I learned.
Oh
So
my
I
God,
had the
great.
best mentors there.
But that's a good school to really learn communication skills.
Yeah,
Nice.
100%. And now it's also making content. My background is in theater, so I used to be an actor. So it's like that's my
That's your thing.
foundation of everything that I'm doing today.
That's great, man.
And two frameworks that really helped me with the problem that you just described, like not knowing how to price and to bring across value, is one. It's from Alex Ramosi. I think you know Alex.
Yes,
It's
the
like,
guy with
he's fucking goat when it
Oh, yeah,
comes to
he's good.
business. He has the value equation. So you have do less of this, do more of that. Outcome is value. So you have perceived likelihood of achievement. How well do people see themselves achieve through your service or good? So what you were saying, I spend more time in Bitcoin, so I know better what I am doing because I spent 24 hours in it. The customer would see a higher perceived likelihood of achievement there because you're more of an expert, because you know all of that. The other one that needs to be as high as possible is dream outcome. What is it that they want to achieve? And will your product, service, or good help them get there?
Got it.
Then you have on the bottom side of the equation that you want to have as less as possible is time delay. The shorter, like if you can get a 6-pack or €1 million or dollars or 5 Bitcoin like tomorrow, it's way more valuable than if I would say you can get that within 5 weeks of hard work and sweat. And that also brings us to the last part of the equation. So time delay needs to be as low as possible, and effort and sacrifice. What do you actually need to do to get the first quick wins? So if you have the low effort and sacrifice, low time delay, so in the shortest amount of time with a high perceived likelihood of achievement, and a big dream outcome. The outcome of that equation is value, and
Got
how
it.
you can charge for that is by literally making it practical. So this is like really dirty sales tactics. Okay, so we can let you achieve XYZ within XYZ time frame. What would that be worth to you? Okay, but if like I'm a big Bitcoin believer, and I think Bitcoin will go to XYZ based on the knowledge that you have. Go back to your expert status. And you don't understand it right now, right? Because that's why we're having this conversation. Yeah. So what would be the value for you to understand everything right now, since we're still really early, to set this up right within X amount of time, instead of spending X amount of time on this, so you can spend X amount of time in earning more fiat money to put into your Bitcoin wallet? Well, we both know that Bitcoin can go to that point. What would that be worth to you? And that way you sell the value that you have
Makes sense.
in a way more easy way that they understand, because you make it practical and you make it accessible.
I agree with 95% of what you said. The part that I'm kind of hesitant about is like building this value proposition on where the Bitcoin will go, because this is I'm trying to explain to people like we don't know what the future holds. I'm always telling why I think Bitcoin will get to 1 million and why it's just a matter of time, because governments will still keep printing money and will be inflating their currency, right? But I'm very hesitant, and I'm having this kind of alarm in my head whenever I see that somebody is building value. Oh, Bitcoin will go there. That's why you need to buy this, right? Or that's why you need to do this. I'm always like, there's a very high likeliness that Bitcoin will go up there based on this, and that, right? I'm always trying to support it with like why, and figuring out different values for a person. So one thing definitely is protection of their wealth. So even if Bitcoin would kind of be stable, it's still a protection, because the fiat currency is going down, and it will forever, right? So even if Bitcoin would be stabilized, just like, let's say, gold, that's a win already. But maybe some people have different problems, like, governments looking at their money, blocking their accounts, not permitting them to send money. So I'm trying to see these angles as well of their problem, to show them like Bitcoin can solve also these solutions. Because with the price and value going up, I slightly am sometimes, hesitant to go that direction.
100% agree. Like you never should say things just for the sake of saying it.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when it comes to a sales conversation, you always have like a couple of phases. So you have like the first, you have the introduction, then you have the discovery. And within discovery, you will find out what's important to them. So is it the privacy of their money? Is it wealth protection? Is it like, what are their reasons for being on that call with you?
Yes.
And then based on that, you tailor the outcome. So based on that, you tailor the value equation in a way that would make the most sense to them. So get a tailored pitch on, I would all like a 3-pillar pitch always helps, based on the pains that you just like discovered during the call.
Yes.
And then of course, always never say things that you don't know. Never make claims that you cannot make through. Like I 100% agree on that.
I agree.
But if you can make it logical with things like, hey, interest rates, for example, compound effect. The compound effect, really well known, proven system. It works. Compound effect with dollar cost averaging. That's something you can easily sell with when someone wants to build wealth through Bitcoin with numbers that you can prove, for example. And in that way, it would make sense in the logical as well. So 100% agree on that.
But it's great for every Bitcoiner to really have these psychological mindset about, what Bitcoin is really solving, and how to show people that there might be a problem with doing this discovery, and showing them there can be a world where we can live in, where these problems might not exist if we implement Bitcoin, and showing Bitcoin as a solution to the problem. So I definitely agree with that. Like, this framework, we as communicators of Bitcoin should have in our mind, to be able to speak with people, openly, not forcing them to do Bitcoin, but just understanding their problem where they are, and showing them like, yeah, Bitcoin might solve your problem, but maybe you have different issues right now that needs to be solved first. So maybe Bitcoin will be for you tomorrow, in a week, in a month, right? So not having this feeling like I have to push Bitcoin to everybody's throat that today, That's something I keep seeing in a lot of Bitcoiners. And what I teach is, more compassion, more patience with people, and like eventually that serves the world more better.
And like I talked about this with Quentin as well, it will come. We have time. We have time. It's up to them. If they see it, will see it, will spend the time on educating themselves or get educated by listening to a podcast or seeing a podcast like this to see how it works. And then to make the bridge from time and your entrepreneurial background, sustainability is something that's really happening nowadays. And that's something that I really admire about everything that I've heard you saying during this conference is how well you're conscious, how conscious you are of the electrical waste that's going on and how you can use that in a right way to mine Bitcoin. So I think like let's dive into that part right now
Okay.
on how that journey developed from literally shitcoin to where you're going right now.
I mean, we started immediately with using waste, what everybody calls waste, as a fuel to mine Bitcoin, which was the cow shit. Like normally, you would look at cow shit like, yeah, what is that? Like just dump it somewhere, get rid of it. We're like, no, we put it to, the infrastructure to make a methane, to cool it down, and burn it, and create Bitcoin out of it and electricity. So we really started mining immediately from a sustainable resource, doing kind of closed loop and recycling, upcycling. And even when we went from Slovakia to Paraguay, Paraguay is 100% run on hydroelectricity. So it's 100% sustainable already. They have the third largest power plant in the world, which is basically the first largest in the world in terms of produced electricity in the world, right? So it's a huge project. If you ever go to Paraguay, just visit that. It's a massive achievement of mankind. So what I see in Bitcoin, like the more I'm in the mining, the more I see where the trend goes, being integrated in mining into making sure that we either use resources that are not tapped today because of economics, because of proximity towards consumers, because with energy, and this is something I didn't know before, like years ago, I thought like, yeah, I mean, we can produce energy, we can somehow store it in the system and then use it when needed. But then somebody told like, no, like anytime, like we have these lights on, right? We have electricity running, we have washing machines. At any point of time, whatever kilowatts we are consuming, that same amount needs to be produced, not more, not less, because then the system will break down, different frequency. So you can even face a blackout if you have more production than consumption or vice versa. So this is like super interesting. Like at any moment of time, somebody needs to be monitoring the network and making sure that everything is super stabilized. The production and consumption needs to be the same. Like, damn, that's crazy, right? So for example, what we have in Slovakia is something called gravitational batteries, or basically when you have more electricity in the system, we run the turbines or pumps that pump the water back into the dam, right? So you basically think about the dam as a battery of potential energy that's going down, creating kinetic energy, running the turbine. If suddenly the demand drops, you increase that by pumps that the only thing they do is take the water back and put it back into the dam, which is super inefficient in a sense, but that's the only way how we can keep the balance. So always in a very stable grid, it's mostly in Europe and US, you always have these ultimate consumers of electricity that needs to turn on immediately, or ultimate producers. So for example, in Slovakia, we have 2 or 3 power plants that they sit idle during the whole day, just waiting for a call to be like, hey guys, you need to start producing right now. And they have a license with the government that they need to start the engines in 0.6 seconds. When the signal comes in 0.6 seconds, they need to start the turbines. If they don't, they face huge penalties. So basically, the whole power plant is doing nothing, just sitting and waiting that they need to start at that very moment to really make sure that we have the balance. So coming from industry that you don't know how the energy works, this is hidden to you. Once you understand, you're like, oh my God, like there are so many issues that the grid faces if some things will go wrong, that you really face a blackout. And in Europe, if that would happen, that we are very close actually, I think last year in Slovakia and in Central Europe to make that happen. If that happened for a week, we wouldn't have an electricity. To start everything once again, it's not like you turn it on. It needs to go in phases. So super complex thing. And what miners can do, they can be the ultimate consumers of electricity to make the stabilize the grid. So they can turn on immediately, turn off immediately. And the Texas understood it. In Texas, miners have these agreements with ERCOT, which is the local energy grid, that they are getting paid to turn off their miners. Because if, for example, a storm is coming and there's going to be a huge demand because people will be home, light will be on, washing machines and coffees and everything, the demand on electricity goes up. So suddenly the production cannot go more up. So we need to reduce some demand, and the miners can do it immediately. So the government or the ERCOT calls them, hey guys, tomorrow from, I don't know, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., you need to turn off your machines. And the miner says, okay, but you need to pay me for it. Yeah, of course, no problem. So miners are earning big amounts of money also with these demand response programs or these curtailment programs. So suddenly mining becomes a tool to balance the grid, to use energy that's not being used by anybody. So one of the analogies I'm giving is the analogy of bakery. So imagine you're running a bakery, Job's Bakery, right?
Sounds good.
Sounds good, right? And you're baking croissants. And every day, 6 p.m. comes, you're closed down, and you have like, damn, I have 30 more croissants I didn't sell. What can I do with it? You take it to your girlfriend, Diana, and she doesn't want to eat it anymore because every day you're bringing new croissants. She's like, I'm done with it. Please get rid of that. You bring it out to the street, you give it out, but you lose money on it because you used resources, nobody bought it, it's gone. Tomorrow, nobody will eat it. But what if I come to you as a miner, as a consumer of last resort, and tell you, okay, you have any croissants that you have left at the end of the day, I will buy them, everything. But instead of paying you $1 for a croissant, I'm going to pay you just 5 cents. You as an entrepreneur be like, yeah, why not? I mean, that's money that comes into my pocket. Instead, I will just throw it away. So this is what miners are doing. They're coming to places where there's a huge supply of electricity and a very low demand for multiple reasons. It can be, again, proximity to consumption. It can be a huge size of the power plant built for future. And they come there and they say, hey, you're wasting all of electricity that nobody will buy anyway. Give it to us. We pay you, but we're not going to pay you 20 cents per kilowatt hour. Pay you 4 cents a kilowatt hour. So suddenly the power producers are like, yeah, why not, right? And this is where mining is basically filling the gap of supply, not stealing electricity from people, because that electricity would just go wasted. And the same, for example, is happening in oil rigs. So you have these farms, the plants that are extracting oil, and you have a lot of natural gas coming out. You see these flames sometimes, it's this flare gas. So why the flare gas? For the companies producing the oil, digging it out, it doesn't make economic sense to somehow pack this gas into bottles and send it because it's too expensive. So what they do, they just light it on fire, put it out. So since the fire is not very efficient, the methane goes out. It's very pollution. So what miners propose to them, and suddenly companies like Shell or ExxonMobil are starting to do it, is like, hey guys, instead of you burning the methane and natural gas just like that, put it to these turbines, put it to these generators, create electricity. And they were like, yeah, but why would I create electricity if it's so abundant? No, create electricity and mine Bitcoin with it. So this infrastructure will pay on its own. And instead of you just burning and polluting the earth, you're just using it to create Bitcoin.
I've heard a story. It was from a Dutch guy who was also really into Bitcoin mining.
Mm-hmm.
Big ass weirdo. Love the guy to follow him. It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's Robert Nas,
Mm-hmm.
and he does this in Kazakhstan.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because in Kazakhstan you have a lot of electrical power plants.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
or gas plants. I don't know
Mhm.
exactly how. You know
Mhm.
this way better than me.
Yeah.
And they just burn it. They
Mm.
just burn it because they have too much.
Yeah.
And then he said, okay, but let us plug in a Bitcoin mine there and like use it to mine Bitcoin.
Yeah, and let's share some revenue. Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, you're basically Bitcoin mining is being criticized by being wasteful, right? So the truth is, yes, Bitcoin mining uses a lot of electricity, but we have to look deeper into what type of electricity, and if that electricity otherwise would be used by somebody else. Bitcoin is the biggest industry with the biggest amount of renewable resources in it. More than 56% of all the energy used for mining is from renewables. None other industry has that, right? And it makes a lot of economic sense why. So we have to look at these numbers as well. And for example, what we want to do as well right now in Uganda, in Africa, we are exploring a project where we will be turning waste, literal waste from landfills, into energy and into Bitcoin. There's a very interesting technology called plasma gasification, which is turning at very high temperatures with plasma torches, like 1,500 degrees and above, turning waste into gas and cooling it down, burning the gas, creating electricity that you can sell to the grid, or you can do Bitcoin mining. And the proposed project we would be starting would consume 150 tons of waste every day till infinity, 24/7, to create Bitcoin and to run about 10, 12, 15 megawatts of miners, right? And the government is super happy because they had a huge problem with waste last year. Their landfill in Kampala collapsed and it killed 30 people. It's a very terrible accident. And suddenly Uganda is like, wow, like we have a huge problem. We have to solve it. But they couldn't solve it because they don't have a proper waste management. Plus, their grid is filled with energy. They have a lot of hydropower and nobody wants to put more energy to the grid because that would be, creating problems. So suddenly miners like us can come like, hey guys, we don't need to create this energy and put it to the grid. We will consume everything we create because we will turn it into Bitcoin. So I was having this meeting with ambassadors and I explained the whole thing. And one of the lady was like, damn, like I thought Bitcoin is about this trading. She showed me her Binance. Like I was just buying, selling, right? But now you explain it to me and it makes so much sense. It's completely different than what I thought. So suddenly they told us, hey guys, please come, show us how it can be done. We try to help you as much as possible because we have to solve this problem. So mining as a thing is like, if you think about it as a consumer of last resort that can consume any energy you put in, even the nice analogy I keep using is Bitcoin is a virtual battery. Because I told you cannot store energy in the grid. Yes, you have these battery storages, but it's super inefficient. But if you put energy into Bitcoin with mining, and then you transfer that Bitcoin, let's say, on the other part of the world to Australia, and then you buy energy with this Bitcoin, what you effectively did, you turned kilowatts into kilowatts somewhere else in a very efficient manner. So it really serves almost like a transportation of energy as a battery for energy that we couldn't normally do. So these analogies or these angles of points of view on Bitcoin mining suddenly opens up so many applications. For example, in Finland, we are exploring a project, and some other companies are doing that, heating houses with Bitcoin. So you're running a Bitcoin miners, cooling them with water, and you put that hot water into the homes directly. So the local heat distribution companies are super happy because they pay you less than otherwise they would be paying to somebody else to create this heat. And you as a miner, effective price drops to, let's say, 2 to 3 cents a kilowatt hour because somebody pays you for the heat that otherwise nobody would use.
It's insane. And like there's multiple touch points here that we can dive into that has everything to do with the Bitcoin ecosystem when it comes down to circular economies, when it comes down to how it affects the pricing. There, I have many questions about, okay, but what if we hit the 20 million, 21 million? But sadly, I know we do not have the time for that. Since you have to catch a flight.
We can do like for 5 more minutes to close down, then I need to run to the airport.
Then I think there's two main questions that I want to end it with. One is, if people want to dig into mining, how can they start? Or where should they start? Because it's quite a rabbit hole.
Oh, yes.
And to close it off, where can they find you if they want to know more about you, want to know more about Bitcoin education and everything?
Got it. So we written a book about mining recently with my colleague Sunil. You can find it on Amazon called Bitcoin Mining Decoded. And it's a very simple entrance in a very storytelling way to understand why mining matters. And if somebody wants to get deeper and wants to maybe one day become a mining consultant, the book is a very good start. We also started to do 3-day Bitcoin mining academies. So that's for people who really want to go deeper. There are, for example, brains is a mining company or mining pool, Brains. They have a lot of resources, very good books, publications about mining handbook. So very, very lots, resources there. Plus, for example, Nico Schmidt, our business partner, is running a newsletter called Bitcoin Mining Solutions. I don't know the name precisely, but if you Google out Nico Schmidt, great guy, super, well known and knowledgeable about mining as well. So that plus, for example, Hash Rate Up, which is a podcast about mining by Jesse Pilke. It's also a very good resource. So there's a ton of very good resources. Plus, people can approach us because we're offering hosting solutions. So if somebody want to start mining, want to try it with one miner, we're offering that in Ethiopia in our mining side. We're doing self-mining plus hosting. And if somebody wants to follow us, they can go to amity.com. Amity meaning cooperation, fellowship, and friendship. So we see Bitcoin as the tool that can bring us to the age of cooperation, to the age of harmony, to the age of amity. That's why we named the company. So amity.com. And if you see the little girl there, it's Amity Nakamoto, the granddaughter of Satoshi. Since Satoshi left, it's her to take this mission and ask the young generation, spreading Bitcoin. So amity.com, people can find me there, or on X or Twitter, Dusan_Matuska. They can reach me there, or LinkedIn. These are like the two platforms I still using a little bit. I'm trying to unplug from social media as much as possible, but sometimes I check these platforms still.
Nice. Then I think that there will be a follow-up podcast when we cross roads again.
Perfect.
I really enjoyed it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Job. Thank you so much.